Hey everybody!
Francisco and
Amia, welcome to Dog Talk. Today we're going to talk about love because it's Valentine's Day. So our theme is love. And I'm a little distracted right now because it always looks like I'm twice your size. And it might just be like my angle to the phone, but like I look huge right now. Like I look like a giant. You look like a little man. Okay, so we're gonna talk about how love affects relationships
with your dog.
And specifically the relationship with your dog. And we're going to share some personal stories and experiences that hopefully you can relate to. So one thing that you always say when you bring home, when somebody brings home a dog, any dog from anywhere at any time, is that they need decompression time.
Right.
So here's where love comes in and it gets a little bit tricky, okay? And I think that people can relate to this quite a bit. It's especially difficult to follow a strict plan when you bring a new dog home and you want that dog to love you. There's something very complex about that relationship, and it's intricate because, so for example, I picked Don Julio out at the shelter, and I would say, like most people would say, he picked me. And we saw a few dogs that day, and they were nice dogs, but it was Don Julio that came in, walked right towards me, and stuck his big head in my lap. And it to me felt like he had picked me. And it felt like he had picked me because he already loves me. And that was really rewarding for me, to meet a new dog and be like, this dog already loves me. I need to take this dog home. So that's what happened. So we brought him home. And then, I of course have a professional here who's telling me what I need to do with Don Julio so that we can have a healthy relationship and so that he learns the respect that's needed to be a part of our household.
He needs to adjust to
and
to
so
our
he could decompress and adjust to our environment, because that shelter was loud. We brought our other dog Mancha to the shelter to meet him, and she was overwhelmed. And she was in there for like an hour. And so then we bring Don Julio home and he's supposed to decompress. But here's the kicker. How can I make him love me? How can I show him that I love him and feel like we're bonding? And how can I feel his love and affection when he's in a crate or out going to the bathroom and back in the crate, or out exercising and then back in the crate? And so I broke all the rules. So even I broke all the rules. And he
for 2 weeks.
Yeah. And it was easy. Let me just tell you that. Like, he was just like, oh, okay, it makes you happy. I have nothing to say, basically. Because there was no arguing. I was gonna just do it, and that was it. So then I was doing things like taking just him, and all the other dogs were following the rules, but then because I felt sorry for him, and I also just felt like there was something I needed that he wasn't able to fulfill if he was following the rules and following the routine. So I would take him out and make a little Like they're not allowed. No one's allowed. No, dogs aren't allowed on our furniture. So I'd make a little nest next to the couch, and sit him there, and I'd pet him for hours, and it was lovely. It was lovely until he started peeing on everything, like my vacuum, and
pillows. He would start marking.
He was marking everything. And it felt really disrespectful, that's for sure. To like have this dog that like is like claiming my house. This is my house. Like don't. So then it kind of like turned a little bit, because it was like. So then he's like, what else? Oh. Then he's snapping at the other dogs. He snapped at he was bullying Mancha, telling Mancha telling Mancha where she could go, where she couldn't go with snaps. And then I don't know, there was like poop eating that like started happening and all of that. He was like collecting other dogs' poop in his mouth because it was like mine, and like this is mine, so it got pretty out of control. And then the breaking point was that he snapped at our 6-year-old son. And when that happened, he did not hesitate to say, I told you so. And he had already crossed Don Julio had already crossed so many of my boundaries, and I was already frustrated and having a hard time. And then when that happened, it was like, enough. And I realized that it was my desperation to love Don Julio and form a bond so he could love me. I wanted so badly to be his favorite person because it made me feel really good at the time. And it was that set us up for failure. And we didn't fail. Luckily, I was able to... Luckily, I had this guy. And I was just like, tell me what to do, boss. Just tell me what to do. I'm in deep and I need help. Whatever you say, I will do. And we took it back. That was what was beautiful about it. Was that...
You can always go back to the beginning.
I didn't mess this dog up. Like there's really isn't like... You just like look at what you have and then you just move forward with it. So I didn't ruin anything, right? It's not ruined. And so we went back from the beginning and we put all of those rules back in place, and he did everything that the other dogs did, which involved a lot of alone time in the crate or dog bonding time and some bonding time with me, but not as much.
No, he did, but what we did, it was kind of like, again, it's what I like to call it short and sweet.
I bonded with him. No, my bonding changed. It wasn't come sit next to me by the couch. It was,
through exercises.
Let's
you
right.
were in control.
I had his kibble in my hands, and we did some basic come, stay, down, every day.
Walks.
Just 15 minutes here and there, every day. I worked him. And... I don't know, it was amazing to try over again to bond with a dog that I had already tried to bond with in the wrong way.
Right. And so when you do feel sorry, or when you put a lot too much love in it at the beginning, that's a lot of the times what will get us in trouble.
And that's the thing, is like I hear you say it to people all the time, give dogs decompression time, and they give a dog a day.
Yeah.
And like this was a dog that, like I said, in the shelter, our dog went to visit that shelter to meet Don Julio for 1 hour, and she was like,
she couldn't handle it. She was like way too much.
A mess. She was. And this is
a balanced.
This is a balanced dog that deals with a lot, just because she's a professional. This is what she does for a living. She goes into homes with dogs that are out of balance, and she helps in whatever way you ask her to. But we had her go into this shelter and she lost it. Like she just, and it's not lose it. We just mean like she was
Couldn't
whining. She was
concentrate.
whining a
Right.
lot. Couldn't
The
concentrate.
excitement was too much for
shaking,
her.
and you could just tell that the place had just kind of threw her off. And so then you take a dog home from that place that's been there for months, and then you just say, "Here you go, you're home," and they're supposed to make all of the right decisions.
Right.
Somehow.
And here, right. And again, we're talking about like preventing this structure would prevent like some aggressive behaviors at times to you kind of like nip it in the bud slowly. But it is really great to have dogs that we don't give them an opportunity to if they have some baggage, like Don Julio, this behavior that that she's describing, this was just the beginning of something big.
It would have been bad
if you let that happen.
I mean, when he snapped at my son, I knew.
And you have to look at it this
really
way.
bad.
You have to take that. I don't take aggression lightly. I take aggression really serious. So when a dog is really taking your place and being disrespectful of the environment, then that's really bad. And this is why we once this happened or we don't know how to control it, then we freaked out. And then that's
right.
when
And
they
luckily
return to
I had
where-
you. Luckily, I had you, and you were like, "Don't worry, I'll tell you what to do." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah. So
So we started back from the beginning again with him. I followed the rules. I followed through, and he's a great dog. He's a great dog, and
He
we
looks-
haven't had any issues.
he looks at
since.
you or at anyone in the house different now.
Much different.
So
And the
different.
relationship feels better that way because it feels like he cares.
Right.
Because
And
before
that's the thing, that's
he
the
didn't
thing, he
care. He
didn't
could
care.
care less.
Just nip it in the bud. Just go back to the beginning.
Go back to the
and
beginning.
Then
Start
there's
over
never
fresh.
too late.
Mhm.
Start fresh. So here's another story about like what happened here when. What we do is that's exactly the first thing we do. We have their place. I call a safety place, and that's going to be their crate. And so we have this beautiful dog that came from. He was jumping around from place to place. So as far as his history or his background, we didn't know much of it. All we knew that is that he didn't have aggression towards people, but he did have aggression towards dog, some certain aggression. And then so this beautiful dog, and he seemed really confident. And then so it didn't look like a big deal for him. So what happens is that when you get a dog that dogs react. So let's just put it this way: he was in his crate, and then she felt sorry for this dog.
I did.
After I said, "This is what he needs to do," and just leave it alone. Let him decompress. Let him do things.
This is the way it goes all the time, and I still have a hard time with it.
And so what happened is, what happened? What did you do? Well, she approached the dog feeling like I want to show you some love, and I want you to feel comfortable
and I
about
did
it.
the reach for a sniff that, like, I know you're not supposed to do, but I didn't know what else to do, and I was trying to connect with this dog, and I was trying to comfort this dog, and that was the only way I knew how, because it's just not. You tell me over and over and over again, and it's just not as natural to me. So I just have a really hard time, like, doing what you say. And I reached for the sniff, and he attacked my face. But luckily, the crate was closed. It was secure, so he just went for it, but didn't get me. And
here's the thing: after I mean, she even saw him. Saw this guy. He looked really confident. He looked great in great condition, and he looked great. But you have to think about it this way: inside, even that the outside looks okay, you never know what they're dealing with the inside, and mainly the brain. You have to look at what they're capable of. So this instance, it was. I mean, that's what we do. We crate our dogs for safety, right? That's the safety protocols that we have here, and so she did, and she was scared of this dog for 2 weeks, and in those 2 weeks, she didn't even want to get closer to the crate at all, and it's like the dog.
Well,
is
what happened
reacting.
was I couldn't relate to him how I knew how to relate to another being. And so since I had gotten such a negative reaction for that, I didn't know any other way. How do you...
Yeah, but that also, that wasn't all of it. I think that once you went through a lot there, because you were saying, what if that he wasn't in a crate? Yes.
Yeah.
That what if the dog wasn't in a crate?
And that's the thing, is a lot of people wouldn't just crate him. A lot of people would give him a bed and think that that's enough, and then they go for a pet,
and then boom.
And boom, he would have really hurt me really
bad.
Right.
He was scared. He was scared. And so he has a lot of reason to be scared, because he was jumping from one place to another, attack dogs, and he lost trust in people.
Yeah.
And so then I'm asking him, this is your new environment for a while, so I need you to be this way at the beginning. And he freaked out. I mean, new place, a new environment, and he knew right away that I had other dogs around here, and he knew that this place was different.
Yeah.
And so what happens is that she broke the rule, and he knew. That was a good example that for her, that to learn that that's why we have those decompression times.
Yeah.
So the dog can learn to trust the environment. And so what happened there for 2 weeks, she didn't trust this dog at all. She was scared.
I think I literally said to you, I don't think I can ever trust this dog ever again.
Yeah. And she said it over and over.
Because I wanted to, but I was really having a hard time.
And so what happens, for instance, for this dog, he turned out he was an awesome dog. And
he was one of those that I wanted to keep.
And 2 weeks after, she was all over the dog. She was like,
and he was all over
God.
Me, and
it was,
he is one I
we did a
will
lot.
Think of forever. Like, he's forever in my heart.
And so, but this is what some dogs need, and then and that's the thing. Some dogs are okay, and some dogs it takes a little bit.
But all dogs would benefit.
But
all dogs would benefit from decompression time, like real decompression time. I mean, like that's the thing that surprises me. Like, it doesn't surprise me because I would do it too. So, but it surprises me after a professional says it, because you say it to people. They need decompression time, and then they give the dog a day in the crate, and then it's everything after that is gone for like that structure that they were trying to provide. Like, well, we did it. Well, but and I think that that's the thing. It's hard for us to put a dog in a cage and have it spend time there and feel like we're giving enough.
Right.
But it's a different type of. And that's the thing, is like, it's not like the dog is in there for hours and hours and hours a day. Like, you're in intervals taking the dog out to go to the bathroom, in intervals taking the dog out to exercise. So it's not as bad as it sounds, but even still, it's hard to do.
Well, that's the hardest part for people
because the affection is so much easier, and it feels better for us, and it makes more sense for us. So that's, without that, we're like, am I doing this right? Is this what I'm like? It feels wrong. It feels so hard that it
feels wrong because we want we want dogs to be all over us. And when we don't see a dog that it's willing to do that at first, then we say there's something wrong with the dog.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with dogs.
Yeah.
I've done it so many times with all of my dogs and any dogs that come here.
And I've been able to get close with dogs that I would not have been able to get close to without you.
Right.
Because I don't naturally know how to do it by myself. And those relationships have been some of the most rewarding. It really, when you can bond with a dog that you didn't know you could bond with, it often feels stronger.
Right. Because at first, let's just put it this way, at first they don't want to feel the love. They want to feel like that they can trust you. They want to know with actions that you're going to be there for them, that
they're secure,
that they're safe.
Yeah.
And then they're not, that you're not just another person that is going to do the same thing. Because if you think about
it's going to let them down.
Yeah. So if they're bouncing from one place to another, imagine how much the trust that they just don't trust people anymore. And so if you want to build trust with your dog, you have to do things a little bit different, or setting up yourself for success just because the dog is going to follow and learn that from the very beginning the crate is going to be the safety spot and no one is going to bother them. And then after that, they take that tool as, oh, I can just, whenever I feel this way, my parents taught me that I can go and decompress over there when I feel unsure about myself. When my parents are struggling with some strong feelings, all I have to do is just go to my crate and relax over there. And so that's kind of like what I like to head with dogs, that they learned that they can go to their safety place.
Well, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people want their dog to be like an unofficial emotional support animal. I know that that's what I did with Don Julio. I wanted him to love me so I could feel better. And I'm hearing what you're saying, that maybe that's not the role that all dogs should play.
No. You shouldn't expect too much from you for that kind of
maybe like
role
when a dog is a dog.
A dog is a dog. It's an animal.
It doesn't always involve that sort of relationship, and maybe it's not fair for us to think that that's what it should entail all the time.
But it's not fair for dogs.
Maybe that's what destroys relationships. Maybe that's what destroys dogs.
It does, because when you put your feelings first, and when the dog is at the beginning is saying, well, what is my place here? What is my expectation here? And you say, well, I want you as just to help me out on my feelings.
Well,
so the dog is going to learn to say, well, what about my instincts? What about this? What about that? And
or what about an insecure dog that says, I just want a confident companion so that I can feel better?
Right.
And when you're showing your weakness like this to me, I don't know what to do with it.
Right. And the best thing that they're going to do is they're going to say, well, this is the job that you're asking me to do, so I'm going to do it really well. And they do. They're right there with you, and it feels really good. But what happens with real life scenarios?
Then you have a guard dog.
Then you have a dog that
you didn't want.
Because those clear messages that you're sending, protect me, I'm weak. And the dog is saying, I give you everything that I have because I love you.
I'm doing what you asked.
You told me that this is my job. And then what happens is that someone comes at the door and the dog is like, boom.
Yeah.
Because that's what you told them to do.
Yeah.
And that's where the other side of the love as well, that it's at the beginning is
and I think
tricky,
that's why people get rid of their crates in the first place. Like they'll get a crate in the beginning.
They do.
And then a lot of people get rid of them. And I think they get rid of the crate for a bed. You know? And I think they do it I mean, who knows the exact reason. Everybody's, I don't want to make assumptions, but I know about me, and I know that it was hard putting my new dog in a crate, a dog that I wanted to form a bond with, and then I only knew how to do that through affection. It felt bad. But what if for that dog, that crate means a whole lot more? We're not really considering that for the dog. Like, what if, and that's the thing, most of the time, like, I don't see dogs in distress when you put them in crates. Even dogs that aren't crate trained, like, we'll have dogs that come and their owners are like, they're not crate trained, and we'll be like, no problem. And it's like they are, like, they just automatically get it. If there are other dogs around them that are calm and quiet and relaxing in a crate, they take that and they say, oh, I'm supposed to be calm and quiet and I'm supposed to relax here, and they do. They don't get distressed. But even still, the like physical act of putting a dog in and closing the door and not having that physical touch and the coddling and the offering of space and things, and it feels like you're setting yourself up for not having a relationship in a way. And I think that's where people lose it. I think that's where people start breaking away from what's actually helpful to a dog and what a dog needs. So the subject of love came up because it's Valentine's Day, but then also I posted about this dog that I love, and his name is Peanut, and he has been homeless for many months now, and he came to us for behavioral rehab because he was basically a street dog that had, I mean, we don't really know. We just know he was marked as a stray. And it does make sense that he, like, didn't have any trust in people at all. And he had just a general fear of everything. He was so afraid. It was like he was afraid he was going to die. Just every moment of every day. That's how he looked, was that he was afraid he was going to die. And again, this is like another example of a dog that absolutely needed all of that structure and thrived on it, and nobody had offered it before because they thought affection was what he needed, but affection didn't help him. So he stayed with us for 2 months, and he just became the most wonderful friend, and he was more open, and he wanted to try. He had so much try in him. And so then when he got to that point, we worked with a foster family and had him transferred back into foster care. And now we're just waiting for him to be adopted. And I posted a video of him, and I was just saying how sad it is that, just like how what I did at the shelter when I picked out Don Julio, and I felt like he had picked out me, that was the deciding factor in bringing him home. That not all dogs do that. And I saw other dogs that day that didn't do that, and I wasn't as interested. And I'm like, why isn't Peanut being picked? And it's because he's not like that outgoing dog right away. It takes time. And he doesn't come right to you, like as if he's picking you out. But the thing about him is, like, once you spend time with him, like good, solid, quality time, he connects with you in ways that many other dogs don't, because he still lacks confidence and he needs you. But it takes time to get to that point, and most people aren't willing to take that time. And I look at myself too, in the experience that I had with Don Julio. I wasn't doing it either. And here I am, and I see great dogs coming in and out all the time where I don't have that, like, oh, he picked me, he loves me moment. I see it all the time where, like, you can create amazing relationships with time and with good, solid practices. And still, I did it too. And I broke all of the rules to honor my
your feelings,
my new dog man that picked me out as the love of his life, and I allowed him to go to poor behavioral places that he otherwise wouldn't. So,
like Don Julio, for instance, that behavior that we're describing for Don Julio, he was like a troublemaker. You can see it in the face. You can see it in the environment, the way he moves, the way he was like.
He was like looking back at it now, there were a lot of F you moments that I did not notice at the time. There was a lot of like, oh yeah? No.
Yeah, and so, but then, yeah, you have to look back and say,
but he's a great dog, and I love him, and it's going really
that's
well.
What he was, and
he
now he's
me.
a totally different dog.
We have that relationship that I wanted. We have that real loving relationship that I wanted, minus pissing on my vacuum and snapping at my kid, and it came back around. It was harder.
It was harder. It was a harder work.
Yeah,
but it is possible that. And
it came back around, and we're in a much better place now. Plus, I still have the love that I was hoping for, but we have the respect too.
Right, he's a great dog. Yeah. Once you gain that respect, and he trusts you.
What did you just say?
Once you gain.
No. You said something like, "He's a great dog."
Yeah, he's a great dog.
He's a great dog.
But it is totally different. You can tell in his behavior that it's more respectful. It's like, I'm in your environment and I'm going to respect you and what belongs to you, your kids. Yeah. Because, we get dogs that have this sort of behaviors, and a lot of the times the solution is not to get rid of them. A lot of the times is learn about the behavior and how to correct that, and so then you get to keep the dog. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened. It kind of was a wake up call for you. And then, because I was just saying, it was driving me crazy, and I'm just like, so when are you gonna do that? And so, and then it had to happen, and then that was a wake up call, and is like, I do not accept that behavior here. Yeah. And
the issue is, apparently I need a lot of wake up calls. And I don't think that that's unusual. I think that that's normal. And
that is normal.
I just loved that you were right there, and you were like, no, you didn't ruin this dog. You didn't. And you don't need to get rid of this dog either. Like, that just is not even an option. Let me show you what you can do. It'll be fine. Because I think that there's a lot of guilt.
It is.
And there's a lot of
freaking
fear,
out.
And there's like a very, like, this idea that it's ruined or something. Like that it can't be.
Fail.
Yeah, somehow. An idea of failure. Yeah. And I used that word earlier, actually, to describe that. That's what it feels like.
No, it is not about that.
And so it's nice to have someone, and I don't think everybody has you. Like, I automatically have you to be like, no, it'll be okay. I'll show you. It'll be fine. And I go, oh, I'm so glad it's going to be okay. And I'm so glad that you know what I need to do right now to make this better. And so I think that's why people should utilize your services.
Well, yeah, like the experience that you're hearing right here, it goes all over the place. People are struggling, and it's real. Let's just accept that there is a struggle right there, and then learn from it, rather than think that it's not going to get fixed, or that there is no solution to that. Mm-hmm. And learn from it. You can start learning some dog behavior,
working on your dogmanship,
working on how to.
It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle, and we're always learning. And I'm immersed in it, and I'm still struggling, and I'm learning so much every day, and I'm also making mistakes and then learning from those mistakes. And
that's what it's all about. You need to learn from mistakes. And
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
See ya.
Until next time.